To start with this very important session today, I request my chairman, Mr. Vijay Meka, Managing Director, SS Green Projects, to kindly give the welcome remarks.
Good evening to all of you. It gives me a great pleasure to welcome you all for today's session on US Business Visa and SelectUSA Investment Summit. Special welcome to Mr. Andrew Edfel, Principal Consular Officer, US Commercial Service, US Consulate, Hyderabad, and Mr. Jonah P. Sanchez, Vice Consul, US Consulate General, Hyderabad. A very warm welcome to all of our members and guests. I acknowledge the presence of our National President, Mr. M. Ponchandra Sorupneni, National President, IACC, and both the Vice Chairman of AP and TS branch, Dr. Ramkumar Rudrapatle and Mr. C. Narayan Rao. We thank our partners, US Consulate General, Hyderabad, for the association. The objective of this session is to understand about the SelectUSA Investment Summit, which brings the diversity of the United States together under one roof, enabling any business to find the people, resources, and market it needs to be successful. At this time, the summit will be virtual for the first time. Today's session will also focus on the guidelines and current situation with regard to US business visa. I think a brief about IACC, everyone knows that it is an apex bilateral chamber synergizing India-US economic engagement. The major objective of IACC is to promote Indo-US relations. IACC AP and TS branch at Hyderabad serves to both states of Telangana and Andhra Pradesh. We regularly organize informative seminars and interactive meetings. We also collaborated with the IFT Calcutta, one of our major partners for skill development of youth in area of international trade. We will shortly coming up with a lot of short-term training programs for working executives and students to upgrade their skills. One point I wish to raise here was that of late, I think as we are aware, US Consulate is offering with limited manpower, and so many requests are coming for us for visa appointments. So the suggestion came in earlier meeting was that they should continuously look upon their website for possible dates to register for the visa appointment. So what actually we request you for the people who are actually regularly visiting, it is not easy for them or possible every day to visit your website and see for a possible dates. So if possible, you can actually start giving them priority date or actually giving them an option to register. So whenever your slots available, so you can give actually on first come first serve basis. Even I think till recently, my son also is unable to get any visa appointment. But later that somebody told that he got an appointment because suddenly slots were open. So in advance, actually, the people who are willing to apply for a visa appointment, the dates are not available and suddenly they are actually visible on your website. So if there is a possibility, allow them actually to register. So whenever it opens, actually, you can give an on priority basis, the first who reserve. You can actually give them slot to them so that this confusion will not be there. And the people who actually registered first will get in the next possible or nearest possible date. Thank you. I'm sorry, actually, shortly I will log off from this session. My other team members will be there. I have another important program to attend. I'll be there shortly, but in between, I will log off. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your welcome address. Now I request my Vice Chairman, Mr. C. Narayan Rao, to kindly introduce the speakers. Please, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to introduce today's speakers. Mr. Andrew Edfel is a commercial officer in the US and Foreign Commercial Services, USFCS, currently serving as Principal Commercial Officer in the US Consulate in Hyderabad, India. There he oversees USFCS operations in the states of Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, and Odisha, helping US companies successfully enter the Indian market. Previously, he served in the US West Los Angeles, USA, Export Assistance Center, and in New Delhi also, where he managed several industry sectors, including travel, tourism, education, franchising, agribusiness, financial services, among others. Prior to joining the Foreign Services, Andrew was director of the US Export Assistance Center in Las Vegas, NV. He also served for 2 years as the first Global Asia team leader, managing a team of over 200 CS staff. Andrew has a BA in Chinese and an MBA from Brigham Young University, Utah State University, respectively. About the other speaker, we have Ms. Johanna Sanchez. She is a Vice Consul at US Consulate General, Hyderabad, with the United States Foreign Services. Johanna entered her BA from Hamilton College and had master's degree in public administration with a focus in international development practice from the School of International and Public Affairs at Columbia University. We request both the speakers to tell the respective areas to our members. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the introduction of our esteemed speakers. Now I request Mr. Andrew to kindly give his address.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Rao, for that nice introduction. I'm very excited to be here today to speak to all of you, and I appreciate you taking the time to join this webinar. I think it's very important information that you should know about regarding investing in the US and also key visa questions that you might have. First, I want to thank IACC for helping organize this event. And just as a quick introduction, as I start to share my screen for the presentation, I'll quickly introduce myself. Let me. Okay, can you see my presentation now?
Yeah.
Yes, we can see the presentation.
Okay.
Can you do the full screen, please?
Yes. Okay, how's that?
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, so my name is Andrew Edlifson. I'm the Principal Commercial Officer in the US Consulate here in Hyderabad. I'm the very first commercial officer here, so it was a great opportunity and an honor for me to be here and take on this challenge. As was mentioned in my introduction, the commercial service serves to assist US businesses here in India, as well as help facilitate foreign direct investment from India into the United States. So my presentation today will focus mostly on the investment portion of what we do, the SelectUSA program, and what it does to help Indian investors find investment opportunities in the United States. So firms decide to enter the US market for many reasons. But one of the strongest selling points is the sheer scale of the market opportunity in the United States, including $20 trillion in annual GDP, a large consumer market of more than 325 million people, a transparent, fair, and stable business environment, and also an unparalleled climate for innovation and intellectual property protection. But you can look at the independent rankings such as the World Bank's Ease of Doing Business and A.T. Kearney's FDI Confidence Index, which put the US at or near the top of these rankings. So firms from around the world consider many factors when they decide where to conduct research and development, where to build manufacturing operations, where to launch innovative startups, or where to locate their service centers. So before SelectUSA existed, US state and local governments traditionally competed for inward investment projects without the support of the federal government. Beyond that, states found themselves competing with other markets and their well-resourced foreign investment promotion agencies for projects. But not all US state and local economic development organizations, or EDOs as we call them, are able to compete on a global scale, leaving potential gaps in their FDI attraction strategy. Some may lack the background, expertise, or resources to attract and retain inward investment. Until 2007, there was no organization at the federal level promoting inward investment into the United States. So you might be surprised to learn that the largest US industry receiving FDI is manufacturing, including chemicals, food processing, pharmaceuticals, and automotive. Together with the other industries shown in this chart, you can see that the US economy is comprised of a diversity of business opportunities, making the US attractive for long-term stability. Long-term stability of the US industry is just one of the reasons why firms choose the United States. To learn more about the foreign direct investment in the SelectUSA program, you can go to selectusa.gov/industries. You can see at the bottom of the screen. So what is FDI, or foreign direct investment? There are basically two types of FDI. One is greenfield, and the other is mergers and acquisitions, or M&A. So when a foreign firm builds operations in another country from the ground up, this is called a greenfield investment. Greenfield also includes expansions of existing operations. So when a foreign firm gains a non-passive equity stake by investing in an existing company, this is characterized as an M&A, or mergers and acquisitions. SelectUSA has assisted with numerous greenfield investments, but generally speaking, it does not engage much in or support M&A activities. So until 2007, there was no federal organization promoting inward investment to the United States. SelectUSA and its predecessor, Invest in America, were created to augment the investment attraction efforts of state and local governments. SelectUSA was created in 2011. The mission of SelectUSA is to promote and facilitate investment into the United States. So SelectUSA is located within the International Trade Administration of the US Department of Commerce. It promotes and facilitates business investment into the United States by foreign firms. SelectUSA is a team based at headquarters in Washington, DC, and it oversees select markets, working across several program functions, including investment services and research, programs and events, communications and outreach and operations, Although our HQ footprint is relatively small, we're able to leverage the support of colleagues across the United States and the world to attract investment into the US. Domestically, we work in close coordination with US Department of Commerce staff located in US export assistance centers in over 100 cities around the United States. And internationally, we work closely with Department of Commerce colleagues in the commercial sections of US embassies and consulates, such as here in Hyderabad, plus US State Department officials in other international markets. So we're essentially a global network of professionals and consultants that can help foreign investors find opportunities in the US. So investment promotion is really a whole of government initiative. And its concept is rooted in founding principles of SelectUSA. So when SelectUSA was initially formed, the executive order created the Interagency Investment Working Group, or IIWG. This group coordinates activities across the more than 20 US federal agencies that touch business investment in some way. As coordinator of the IIWG, SelectUSA responds to specific issues that affect investment decisions, focused on improving federal investment programs and resources, and leveraging the expertise and tools each agency offers. So SelectUSA chairs the IIWG. So as you can see, the SelectUSA office works closely with EDOs in four main ways. One is creating actionable information for foreign firms who are looking to seek out investment opportunities in the US. It creates a platform to connect and network these foreign investment firms with EDOs in all 50 states of the United States. And it helps these EDOs and investment firms navigate all of the resources available within the US government system so that they can make the best and most educated decisions to invest in the United States. So the SelectUSA Investment Summit is the highest profile event dedicated solely to promoting foreign direct investment in the United States. This is SelectUSA's signature event, which happens every year, and it provides an unparalleled opportunity to bring together companies from all over the world. EDOs from every corner of the United States and other parties working to facilitate business investment in the United States all participate in the SelectUSA Summit. It's the single best event for firms to learn about investment opportunities in the United States, and for US state, local, and territorial officials to market their locations. The 2019 summit attracted over 3,100 attendees, including 1,200 foreign delegates and more than 790 US state and local EDOs, covering 49 US states and territories. So this is a great example of how SelectUSA Summit is an all of government effort that runs throughout the year. So besides the summit, which happens every June, SelectUSA programs and resources are available year round. And the list of Indian investments in the United States is long and impressive. You can see here a partial listing of key Indian investments from multiple industries. And you may recognize many of these Indian companies who have set up successful investment operations in the United States. The top Indian investments in the United States are from India are IT and software services, business services, and pharmaceuticals. Those are the top three. Indian investments have supported the creation of over 67,000 US jobs and have contributed to over $2 billion of US exports. And you can download this fact sheet. This is the India fact sheet. You can download all of these country fact sheets from the SelectUSA website. So these are just some highlights from the 2019 summit and the India delegation that Ambassador Juster led to that summit. There were over 3,100 participants and over 1,200 investors from 66 markets. And it was hosted by the then Secretary of Commerce, Wilbur Ross. Over $600 million of FDI announcements were made at the summit, including over 50 million of investments from India. Again, there were EDOs from all 50 US states and territories. And India was the 5th largest international delegation with 96 Indian delegates. And for the past probably 5 or 6 years, India has ranked among the top 5 largest foreign delegations. So we know that Indian interest in the US investment market is very high. So due to COVID, the 2020 SelectUSA Summit was canceled, but we're holding it this year on a virtual platform from June 7th to the 11th. It will include 5 days of virtual investment information, and registration is now live. You'll be able to interact with over 100 investment academy sessions that are tailored to the participant types and the type of learning they want to accomplish. There will be a supply chain optimization mini-series and programming based on specific time zones to accommodate the different markets around the globe. There will be an expanded industry-focused programming and SelectUSA Tech special sessions. SelectUSA Tech is a special part of this overall SelectUSA Summit that helps tech startups and new companies to focus their investment strategies and opportunities in the United States. So that's a really quick overview of the SelectUSA program and the SelectUSA Summit. If anybody has any questions about these programs and the summit, you can contact me, or we do have a SelectUSA rep in Mumbai, and you can see the office email there. Any questions you have, you can forward to these emails. But I'd be happy to, if we have time, I'd be happy to take some questions right now regarding what I covered.
Andrew, I have a quick question. You said last time, this year, SelectUSA going to be a hybrid one. So now you changed it to complete virtual?
Yes, originally they were planning to do a hybrid platform, including both virtual and in person. But due to the uncertainties of COVID, they've taken away the in-person portion, but all of it will be virtual this time. But I would add, keep in mind that even though it's virtual, participants will still be able to connect and network with all of the EDOs in all 50 states. And they've set it up so that the timings work for all of the time zones around the world. Okay.
And my second part of my question is, you mentioned, I think, for any FDI, I'm sure EDOs prefer their own states. And you also have a central organization called IIWG. if there is a particular investment, this IAWG, do they recommend a suitable state for that kind of investment, or you have to explore on your own?
So the IAWG is essentially all of the federal participants in the investment program and the resources that we have. Usually the best way to identify each state's investment opportunities and incentives and so forth and connect with the EDOs is to work through the SelectUSA office itself. In addition to all of our U.S. export assistance centers around the United States, we have over 100 offices in the U.S. Prior to joining the Foreign Service, I was our director in Las Vegas for 10 years. And these offices are well connected with all of the state's economic development organizations, and they can connect you with these people directly. And of course, all of these EDOs will be participating in the summit. Any more questions?
So can we move forward, and can I request Zohana to give her presentation?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I will.
And before moving to that, Shika, I think there are some questions. Maybe you can, after Johanna's comments, maybe you can, there are in the mailbox, I think there are some questions. Maybe
Yes, sir. In chat box, there are some questions. So we have time, sir, for Q&A after Zohana's presentation.
Okay.
Can we take them? Yeah. So I request Zohana to.
Thank you. I think, Andrew, if I could, I'm going to share my screen.
Okay, I stopped sharing mine. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, can you all see the presentation? Let me just put it on presentation mode.
You can see your presentation.
Okay.
Yeah. No.
Okay, can you all see it in presentation mode?
Yeah, it's good.
Perfect. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much to the IACC for inviting us to this event, as well as Andrew for that very insightful presentation. My name is Joanna Sanchez, and I'm one of the vice consuls at the U.S. Consulate General in Hyderabad. And so I'm just going to talk a little bit about what our current business visas process are and what our current operating posture is. So, you know, as always, our commitment is to facilitate U.S. travel and always maintain the highest safety and security standards for all travelers, especially take into consideration everything that's going on right now. And that's all across either our Consulate General, our Visa Application Center, and our call center. So currently, we are seeing limited appointments to ensure the health and safety of our applicants and our staff. We're also seeing limited routine appointments and our American Citizen Services. We are processing H1Bs, H4, the student exchange visitor cases, as well as B1b2s. And we are also accepting interview waivers through the Dropbox and applications for all the visa classes for those people that are qualified for the interview waiver program. So first, let's talk a little bit about the B1b2 visas, which I'm sure a lot of you are very familiar with. So the B1b2s are non-immigrant business visas or tourist visas. And so, you know, if you're traveling, I'm going to go a little bit as to what some of that entails. But one of the things that we want you to take into account is, you know, a lot of our B1b2 visas, sometimes they have a 10-year, like a 10-year time frame. But of course, there is a difference between the visa validity and the length of stay, right? As a non-immigrant entering the United States, your length of stay is always determined by Customs and Border Patrol, and not by your visa validity on your passport. So B1b2, some of the things that you can do on a B1b2 visa, so you can engage in commercial transactions. They do not involve employment in the US. So for example, let's say that you are manufacturing clothes, or you are producing a garment, and you want to take measurements of the person you're producing the garment for, you know, you can do that. You can take orders for goods manufacturers abroad, but you cannot work on that specific visa. You can negotiate contracts. You can maybe consult with your business associates. You can meet with them. You can also participate in conferences, undertake independent research, as well as tourist travel. And so our H-1B, which is one of our employment-based visa categories, it is a specialty, you know, it's one of those like specialty occupation. And what does that position require? So either it's the attainment of a bachelor's or a master's degree in a specific specialty, experience in the specialty equivalent. So if you don't have the academic credentials, what kind of work experience do you have that kind of gives you the credentials to apply for that specific employment? And then also expertise in that specialty through positions relating to that specialty. So, you know, for example, some of our applicants that might go on to work at Amazon in the United States, what kind of positions have they had here to be able to have acquired them that position in the US? And so, you know, as a lot of you might be aware, there is currently the Presidential Proclamation 10052, which is currently in effect through March 31st, 2021. Currently, we haven't received additional guidance on that time frame. So for right now, the Presidential Proclamation is in effect until March 31st, 2021. And so it does suspend the entry to the United States of certain non-immigrant visa applicants. And so for some of our H-1B applicants, there might be L1 applicants, the Presidential Proclamation does apply. And so it might also be for some H-2Bs and J-1 participating in specific programs. And of course, any derivative applicants of that principal applicant related to that visa class. And so, when applying for a visa, and depending on the visa class, so for some people that are applying for a B1b2 visa, you know, if they have heard, if the officer tells them they have been refused under Section 214B of the Immigration and Naturalization Act, that is a refusal in that visa application, and it is presumed that that anyone applying for a visa is an impending immigrant until he or she establishes that they are entitled to a non-immigrant status. And so another refusal type is 221G. And so Section 221G, it forbids by a consular officer to issue to anyone whose application is incomplete. It means that it requires further administrative processing for us to be able to come to a conclusion on that specific case. If your case is 221G, you would not have to pay a second application fee if refused under 221G, and that status remains active for 1 year. So if after 365 days you have not received a response regarding that that visa application, you have to reapply. You have to reapply for a visa again. So administrative processing, so 221G, you know, it could indicate that more work needs to be done on your specific case. Sometimes no new information is needed. However, the visa officer might tell you that we either need additional documents from you or we just need further information. And so you might receive an email to answer any additional questions. And it is very important that if you receive guidance from your consular officer or an email asking you for more information, that you fill that out as soon as possible, because we cannot continue with your application until we receive this documentation. So if you delay on your part on submitting this document, it would actually delay the process for us to be able to issue you the visa. And so unfortunately, we really can't predict how long the process will take. Each application, you know, comes with, each application has different characteristics. You know, we might need different forms. And so we can never tell you a specific time frame. You can check the status by going on our website. You can email our support team, or you can call the call center with very specific questions in regards to your case. So one of the things that we always want to stress in all of our presentations is fraud, and kind of what fraud entails for anybody applying for a visa. And so fraud includes any false statements provided in your application or provided to the consular officer at the window, omitting or concealing substantive facts about your application, or providing fake documents. So any of those things, and the key thing is with the intent to deceive or mislead the person that's making the decision at that time. And so the penalty for fraud is a lifetime exclusion from entering the United States. So it's something that we take very seriously, and it's always something that we want to bring up, because we always want to make sure that applicants are putting their best self and providing us with the most accurate documentation that they have available. So some of the realities on applying for a visa, right? Yes, there might be long wait times, especially now with us seeing limited appointments. When looking at scheduling an appointment, right, you are kind of looking at a longer time frame. So please plan ahead, coordinate needs. So some of the tools available, you can use our interview waiver program. So prior to the pandemic, we did have the option of the group appointments. Currently, because of our limited appointments, we are currently not seeing group appointments, and we also have emergency appointments. So in the U.S. consulate, we are partners in the promotion of business interests in the U.S. And so we encourage those that have questions and that are looking to apply for a visa, go on our website and really kind of see all the information needed. So the interview waiver program, so like I mentioned, for those that cannot get an appointment that are eligible for the interview waiver program, so you can either have a renewal, which you have to be issued in the same visa class, has to be issued in the same country, so here in India, and your most recent visa is actually still valid or expired. So it's actually, so we just received guidance that this changed. And so now, until December 31st, 2021, we are seeing IW cases on visas that are still valid or have expired within the last 48 months. So that is the next, so within the last 4 years, up until December 31st, 2021, our IW program will start looking at those eligibilities. And also you qualify for an interview waiver program if you are under the age of 14 or over 80. So if you qualify for an IW, you will receive a Dropbox submission letter containing a document checklist of what you need. You're gonna print out the letter and you're gonna drop off your passport at one of our 11 service centers. One of our 7 service centers here in Hyderabad is very close to the U.S. consulate, and you must schedule an appointment at one of the visa application centers, so one of the VACs, where they're going to take your fingerprints and your photos, so that then we can then look at your case and determine whether you are eligible, and then go ahead with issuing that visa. So an emergency appointment. What is an emergency, right? So it really depends. Everybody has very different situations. And so one of the things that we ask our applicants who are requesting emergency appointment is that first, you need to have made an appointment in advance through the online appointment system, right? So we understand that you're looking at appointments that are very far off, but we really need you to make that initial appointment and complete all the necessary paperwork, and then email us with what is your emergency, right? We need you to provide complete information about the nature of the emergency, the time of travel, and really allow us to make a determination whether you can be granted an emergency appointment. So remember, first apply for a regular appointment online, and then request an emergency appointment online at the consulate which your original appointment is scheduled for. So for example, if you live in Hyderabad, but you got an appointment in Mumbai, then you will have to then write to the Mumbai consulate to be able to grant an emergency appointment. But you will be able to take your fingerprints at the Visa Application Center here in Hyderabad. But the regular appointment and the emergency appointment has to be approved and made through the consulate that you made your regular scheduled appointment. So some of the American Citizen Services, like I mentioned, we also have limited services for ACS, limited appointments, but our services are still the same. So we're still doing passports, still doing CRIBAs, voter assistance, notarial services, and we always ask our American citizens to please enroll in the Safe Traveler Enrollment Program, where you can receive emails at any situations that may impact an American citizen living in India. And so you can always go to our website where we have our most up-to-date information, or you can always email Hyderabad ACS, so hyattacs@state.gov, and there's our phone number. And so you may contact us at our website, our email, our call centers, and also over Facebook. And so if you have any questions in regards to what the process is like, or any questions on my specific presentation or Andrew's, I will be sure we'll be more than happy to take some questions. Thank you.
Johanna, thank you very much.
Johanna, I have one quick question. That is, I keep hearing one complaint, that is, if a person marries a F1 or a H1 visa holder, and the spouse can immediately apply for H4 or F4 and go to the United States. But if a person marries an United States citizen, they have to wait for a year or year and a half to get their green card through the process. Do you have any temporary option for the spouse to visit the United States during this green card processing time?
So those are two very different visa classes. And so they require very different documentation. And so, one, it will be an immigrant visa, and the other one will be a non-immigrant visa. And so in Hyderabad, we don't process immigrant visas. And so those two are very kind of different requirements as to what what U.S. agencies involved and what kind of processes it takes. And so that's a little bit way above my pay grade. And so, it really, I would say,
my question is not that. My question is, when the process is going on, I know someone else processes that, but are they eligible to apply for visitor's visa? And do you usually consider favorably till, just to visit the United States and come back for the spouse?
So, I think that's it's very, every person is going to have a different circumstance, but if the person is intending to immigrate to the U.S., right, an intending immigrant, is very different than someone that's planning to visit the U.S. So for a B1b2 applicant, right, there is a maximum time frame that the person can stay in the U.S. And that is within one time. It's 180 days. That is, of course, dependent on what Customs and Border Patrol kind of gives us the time frame for that specific stay, right? So if the person is an intending immigrant and they wish to live in the United States, then they have to go through the normal process of applying for an immigrant visa. However, if a person wishes to visit the United States as a tourist, then there is then they can apply for a B1b2.
Yeah, many times the complaint is, how come a temporary visa holder can visit his or her spouse immediately, but as I married a US citizen, but I am not able to visit my husband or wife. So that is a frequent question we keep hearing.
Yeah, I think it's we have to look at the different visa classes. And so, even amongst like non-immigrant visa classes, it's very different, the requirements that are kind of put forth, and the time frames and the wait times, right?
Yeah, okay. I'm done, Shika.
Okay, can we take question answers from the chat box? Can I request Annette to help us in the Q&A process?
Sure, thanks, Shika. Good evening, all. I'm Annette from the US Commercial Service. So starting off with the first question, I think we have a question for Joanna. The first question is from Raj. He states that our company is based out of in India, but has a registered office in the US as well, among other geographies. If I'm given a job in the US based office, will I be entitled to work visa that is not process oriented, time consuming as the H1B?
Okay, so I guess so my first kind of point is that no one is entitled to a work visa. Each individual applicant has to go through the process depending on the type of work, right? So if it is an employment-based visa that you are seeking, and we see a lot of applicants, right, for companies that are based in India and have a registered office in the US. And so depending on what type of work, right? So if that is an H-1B, then you will have to apply for that work visa, for that H-1B visa, right? Just because there is a company here in India that has an office in the US, you know, no one is entitled to a US employment visa. And so, you know, kind of following the process and going through USCIS and any other agency, you know, to be able to get that employment-based visa approved. You know, and there are also multiple types of employment-based visas that we see here in India. And so kind of depending on which visa will be according to the job that you will be performing in the US. So for example, you know, we have the H-1B, but then we also have the L visa, right? And so depending if it's like an L1A, which is more looking like the executive visas, or an L1B, which is more very like specialty focused job and field. And so even within the L visas, we have very different classes and type of things that we're looking for the applicant to be able to meet the requirements for that visa class.
Right. And the next question, I think, is for both Andrew and for you, for Joanna. What is the minimum size of investment needed to qualify for a business visa, and what are the benefits of the visa? Andrew, do you want to take the question of minimum number of size of investment?
Sure. And of course, my response is in no way related to any visa component of it, but you know, an investment in the US can be any size. There is no minimum investment, particularly regarding, you know, if you want to use SelectUSA programs and resources. To my understanding, there is no minimum investment limit. And it's really going to depend, however, on each state, depending on where your investment takes place in which state. Each state may have limits or minimums on the types of investments. But as far as SelectUSA is concerned, we don't restrict on the size of the investment. I'll turn it to Joanna if you have anything to add regarding visas.
And this is especially for the EB-5, the Immigrant Investor Program?
No, Joanna, they're just asking the benefits of a business visa.
Oh, okay. So a B1 so a business visa related to the B1b2 visa class. So you know, in terms of the B1b2, it is also looked at as a tourist visa. So again, if it's for example meeting with clients that you'll be doing in the US, and so I do want to make clear that under the business visa, you can meet with clients or, you know, or meet with potential vendors, but you cannot receive any sort of compensation or payment while, you know, from the US, right? It's not an employment-based visa. And so you can have meetings in relation to projects that you're working on, but it's not like you can receive any form of salary or payment. That will have to come from your employment and organization here in India.
All right. Thanks, Joanna. The next question is from Smriti Goel. She says, our daughter, who is currently employed on an H-1B visa, working as a veterinary doctor in Boston, How can she get her visa stamped here in India? She plans to visit India from mid-July to mid-August, but can only firm up her plans once she knows that a visa stamping can be processed here in that time period. Please advise.
Yeah, so I would say she can actually make an appointment for that time frame from the US. So she can visit our website and kind of sign up for the appointment time, and just be on the lookout for when that time frame opens up, so that she can first make the appointment, make the interview appointment, and then subsequently make the appointment for the VAC, for the fingerprints and the photos. But she can actually do that from the US prior to traveling to India.
All right. The next question is from Megan. Has the renewal of B1b2 started? If yes, any appointments available soon?
So we are currently seeing B1b2 applicants at the window. So please monitor our website for availabilities, for our calendar availabilities. But if you do qualify for the interview waiver program, so like I mentioned, some of the requirements are the same visa class. And just recently we received new guidance that if you're applying for the same visa class and you've already applied for the B1b2 here in India, and your visa maybe expired, maybe it hasn't expired yet or expired within the last 48 months, then you are eligible to apply for an interview waiver. So please go on our website, see if you qualify through the interview waiver. That's one option to apply. Or you can also check out our website and apply for an appointment depending on our availability.
Thanks, Joanna. The next question is for Andrew. This is from Prashanti. Starting an office in the US seems lucrative as we get to explore the opportunities. Does SelectUSA help in setting up a company and opening a bank account in the United States?
Thank you. That's a great question. The simple answer is yes. SelectUSA can direct any investor to the resources within each state, one, to register a business and to set up an office, and also to set up a bank account there. SelectUSA or the commercial service doesn't do that for you, but we can direct you to the right resources. You just have to contact us and provide us the details. But yes, we can help with that.
All right, Andrew, the next question is also for you. This is from Shekhar. Can the credit facility be extended to the investing companies, as the Indian companies will not have the credit history in US, but a good credit rating in India?
Again, I believe that's an issue that you would have to talk to each state authority about. And I think that ties to the type of business license and business registration you have set up. So if you want to email me that question, I can probably get more clarity, but I think you would want to work with each state authority to clarify that. I don't have a complete answer for you, but you can email me and I can get that information for you.
All right, Andrew. I think again, another question, this is more to do with what's the response from Indian companies from the previous SelectUSA summit during Obama's campaign that was done by Vinay Tumanapalli in India. I think maybe Andrew, just to give you a background, Vinay Tumanapalli was from Hyderabad, and we had a couple of events in the past. So just to add, to address your question, Anand, we did see a lot of investments come out even from the previous summits as well. But Andrew, if you have anything to add to it as well.
No, honestly, I don't have a lot of insight into that. I'd have to do a little research. Annette, maybe you might have more information for that for me, but I do know that the Indian delegation to the 2019 SelectUSA Summit was a very successful visit, and we did have considerable projects come from that visit, over $50 million worth of investments. But again, if you'd like to email me that question, I can do a little research for you.
All right. The next question is for Joanna. Joanna, this is from Prashanti again. What's the criteria for B1b2 visa?
You're muted.
Johanna, you're muted.
Now you can hear me. Okay, sorry about that. So the criteria for a B1b2 visa really depends on what is the reason for travel, right? So the criteria for someone that's going on a tourist visa, someone that's going on tourist travel, let's say you want to take your family to Disney World, we are going to take into account, what there are specific criteria that we're looking for when it comes to tourism travel to go to Disney, for example. Or let's say if you are meeting with stakeholders for a business, right? So for example, why is a meeting taking place? What exactly would you be doing? So it really depends on your reason for travel. And then the consular officer will ask more information in regards to your specific travel. And we will kind of take a look as to how that meets the criteria for B1B2.
Thanks, Joanna. We have another question from Smriti Goel. The visa processing facilities are temporarily closed in Hyderabad and many other centers. When will they open to get an online appointment?
So currently our visa processing facilities, they are open. We're just seeing a limited number of appointments. And I understand that can be frustrating to get an appointment. And sometimes the dates are very far out. But currently we are taking the health and safety of our applicants and our staff very, very, very seriously. And so that is one of the reasons why we are seeing a limited number of appointments. But currently they are open, both the consulates, the visa application centers to get fingerprints, as well as our call centers are receiving calls. So we're open, we're just kind of working at a reduced capacity.
Thanks, Joanna. We have one more question where it's this is from Anvesh. For you, is there any limit on number of times B1, B2 visa person can visit USA?
Most of the B1, B2 visas are given a 10-year validity. And so, it really depends on the person as to how many times they go to the US in 10 years. It is something, so there is a big difference between visiting the US and living in the US. And so if we see that they are traveling very often to the US, then we inquire, why is the reason for travel? And then we ask about the very specific time. So there isn't a limit on the number of times the B1, B2 can visit the USA. But if the consular officer or anybody reviewing your application will definitely ask you more questions about your previous travel.
All right, Joanna, we have another question again from, this is from Ishan. How many days a B1, B2 visa holder is allowed to stay in the US in a single stay? I think you already answered that, but do you want to add something more to it?
Yeah, but so it is a maximum of 180 days per stay. However, I am going to say that the time, the amount of stay, even though it is decided by Customs and Border Patrol, right? So when you enter the United States, let's say you are, for example, on that Delhi to Newark flight and you arrive in Newark, it really is up to CBP to determine how long you can stay in the US. But usually the maximum stay per travel is 180 days.
Oh, all right. Thanks, Joanna. Next, there are a lot of generic questions that they've been providing in a personal questions, but there's one question from Namita. Can you please guide to avoid visa rejections?
So like I said, each visa application is very, very, very different, right? You're looking, someone might be asking for a visa to go to to go to Disney World. Someone else will be traveling to go to a conference, while some are applying for employment-based categories. So each application varies, right? So there isn't any right way on how to get a visa approved. There isn't any wrong way on how to get your visa rejected. And so we look, each consular officer determines, and like I mentioned, you know, the 214B. So we consider that anyone applying to a visa is an impending immigrant. So we're really determining whether you will receive that visa under non-immigrant visa status. And then for employment-based categories, we are looking at other several factors, right? And each category has its own very specific things. So there isn't a one-size-fits-all when it comes to visa issuances or a one-size-fits-all when it comes to visa refusals.
Thanks, John. We have another question, I think, from Kumar, but you've already addressed this, so we'll skip that. When also Namita's question was addressed already earlier. So Purvi Chotani actually mentions that B1 services are on. Many of our clients have got such visas. All right, so that's not the question, but there's one more from Ahmed. He has a question that says, while filing application, if one makes a mistake about his education and realizes on the day of the interview, what happens in this scenario?
Okay, so you know, we definitely tell applicants, and I believe that when you are filling out the SEAC report, the DS-160, you know, it does ask to make sure that all the information that you provided is truthful and to the best of your ability. So that is something that we take very, very seriously. You know, we ask people to take their time when applying and filling out their application. But, you know, it really depends. For example, if you're applying for an employment-based visa and part of that visa is that you do have the education credentials on applying for that employment-based category, and you lied on the application as to there is an error on your application in terms of your education, you know, it definitely raises some red flags for the application itself, right? Especially for those employment-based categories. We ask applicants to be truthful in the application when they come into their interview, and you know, errors or like I said, any type of fraud that we find in an application is something that we take very, very, very seriously.
Yeah, thanks, Joanna. The next question, and also participants, just because we're shortage of time, we might have to skip few questions. But I think we have a next question for Andrew from Sandeep, which says, which state is the best for retail tech startups?
For retail tech startups. You know, it's hard to pinpoint just one state. I think, you know, in California, particularly Northern California, you have a large tech concentration, obviously. But I think it would depend on the specific, you know, industries. If there's a sub-industry that you're focusing on, it's hard to say. But I think there are many states that would hold potential for this type of investment. And I would encourage you to, you know, reach out to me or Annette, and we could kind of narrow down the possibilities for you. Thanks.
All right, Andrew, one more question. I'm skipping the generic questions, but we have one question from, Shaker, which says, okay, I think this was already addressed. This was regarding the credit rating. But the next question is from Kiran, where this is for Joanna. What is the minimum investment required for EB5 visa? Also, such investment, would it be required to be made in one go, or can it be staggered manner over a period of time?
So currently, we do not process EB-5 immigrant visas here in Hyderabad. I will actually have to confirm, you know, but in terms of like the minimum investment, I believe it has been increased from 1 million to 1.8 million to account for inflation. But if you have any questions, you can also go on the USCIS website, and that has a little bit more detailed information as to the specific requirements and what is the correct process and paperwork that needs to be submitted to be able to apply for that type of visa.
All right. We have another question from Ishan. This is for Andrew, I think. What would be the takeaway points for an Indian company, those who are willing to expand business in the US?
Okay, at least some highlights and some takeaways of why, you know, the United States is a good FDI destination. You know, the United States is the world's #1 investment destination for many reasons. It's an economy with $20 trillion in annual GDP. It provides a very transparent and stable business environment compared to other, you know, options, other countries to invest in. It's accumulated over $4 trillion in FDI stock. And one thing that I think you can't overlook is the strong human resource aspect. The ability to identify and hire skilled staff, maybe to run your office or to run your operation there. It's very easy to do. And given that, you know, each state offers its own unique incentives and benefits to invest in their states, it provides more options, again, for investors to look at the US and kind of custom make, you know, their investment portfolio there, because there are so many opportunities and so many options to choose from.
All right, thanks, Andrew. I think there's one last question, keeping in mind the time. This is for Joanna. This is from Srinivas. He says, I have a company in the US and one employee is working. I want to send one more employee on L1A visa to let, how many employees required to work in the USA to process new L1A visa? How much amount is required in bank account in USA? Sorry, these are very generic questions, but if you have any answers to L1A visa, Joanna.
Yeah, so I do not have the answers for that. I will direct you to either the travel.state.gov website, as well as the USCIS website, and also because they will be the ones to be able to grant that employment petition to then be able to schedule that interview. And so it will have to go first through USCIS, and then it will go through like the visa process. And so please go to the USCIS website as well as travel.state.gov to learn more about it.
Yeah, thanks, Joanna and Andrew. Shika, over to you.
Yeah, before Shika, before that, I have a small question for Andrew. Is there any invitation to be got for participating in the SelectUSA, or is there any process of registration to participate in the SelectUSA?
Yes, you can contact me or Annette if you're interested to participate, and we will send you all the relevant details and applications. Or if you just go to selectusa.gov, you can apply a register to attend through that. But any questions you might have, feel free to reach out to me or Annette.
Okay, I have a question to Johanna. If I have a 10 years B1 visa, business visa, and I visited on a business purpose and then come back, once again, I want to go as a tourist to USA. Do I have to specify that again and then enter into USA, or with the same 10 years valid visa, I can go to USA?
Yeah, so on a 10-year B1b2 visa, you can go. Let's say you went for a business meeting, and then you want to go with your family on vacation. You can definitely do that. You know, as long as you do it. And actually, when you arrive at the port of entry, CBP will ask you as well. You know, your intent of travel and the duration of stay in the U.S. So yes, you can definitely travel to do business in the U.S. on a B1b2, as well as to do any tourist visits as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Shikhar, you can take it.
Yeah, thank you so much to both our speakers, Mr. Andrew and Ms. Johanna. And thank you, Anand. Thank you so much for your help. Now I request our Vice Chairman, Mr. C. Narayan Rao, to kindly give vote of thanks and concluding remarks. Please, sir.
Shika, I think we renamed Annette as Anita by IACC, and you are still calling her Annette.
Yeah, thank you, gentlemen and Joanna. On behalf of Indo-American Chamber of Commerce, would like to thank our esteemed speakers of this session, especially Andrew Edelson and Ms. Johanna Sanchez from U.S. Consulate General, Hyderabad, for joining us today and spending their most valuable time and addressing our members and addressing our guests also. We also acknowledge and appreciate the support of entire team of U.S. Consulate General, including Anita, Hyderabad. We thank all our members and guests for their participation. It's a great session, and we also wish the SelectUSA grand success. Thank you. Thank you once again, all of you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.